What's up, guys? Sub-Zero here, back for another not VOD review. Today is actually like a talkie style video about something that I came across on Twitter that me and I think this is something that hit like a lot of like TFT little like subgroups, and people are like, what is this tech? What are people talking about? And I went down like too much of a rabbit hole to not make a video about it, and I found it way too interesting to not make a video about it. So let's yap about this. So this is a tweet from Cardax. If you guys don't know, Cardax actually did a VOD review of him earlier in the set because he was rank 1 on his server. He's currently sitting, at rank 6, still quite high on the Middle East server that he plays on, but very, very solid, very high ranked TFT player. And Cardax was actually just translating this tech. This didn't come from Cardax, but this is a tech that he said is currently popular in China, I guess. I don't know where on Chinese social media, I guess, and stuff like this. But, a lot of people have seen this, 67,000 views, almost 700 likes. And so I wanted to cover this, talk about some of the ideas. A lot of this is just kind of like how to play good TFT when you're playing Reroll. But then there is this one idea of like a lucky wave that is quite controversial that I want to talk about. Okay, so first, this is just rolling at optimal level and stages to maximize odds. I think this is really good if you're not that familiar how to play reroll. So, like 1-cost reroll, you want to roll level 4 and 5. 3-1 to 4-1 is your rolling window. 3-2 to 3-5 for best for 3 stars. And then, prioritize econ and then stay at level 4 and then roll down 3-1. And then you really the big thing that I think a lot of people miss with comps like this is or with rerolling is like when you are strong, so understanding like you were really strong stage 3 with 1-cost reroll, you want to be hitting your 3 stars in this 3-2 to 3-5 exactly is like when you really want to be hitting 3 stars. If you're hitting them later, that means your game's going to be really tough. I've talked about this before in some like coaching content that I've put out, but the idea is like if you're losing stage 3 and you're playing 1-cost reroll, you are in a world of hurt because late game, if you're just playing around 1-star 3-cost or 3-star 1-cost, and other people are like 2-star 4-cost, 2-star 5-cost, you're just gonna be so weak compared to them. So this is when you need to be strong. 2-cost before stage 4, and then this is really important. This is something that people miss also in 2-cost reroll. Roll heavily at 3-2 to stabilize, and then 3-star at 4-1. But you really need to roll. We saw last set when 3-cost reroll was really prevalent at like the world championships, sometimes people would roll down to like 10 gold at 3-2 just to hit their 2 stars because their 2 stars are so important. And then 3-cost, it's mid game. It's a really good point here that it's 5% higher odds if you pull up shop odds here, level 6 to level 7. It's actually, yeah, I think this is actually incorrect with the current odds. This might be based on previous odds. It's actually like a pretty big diff nowadays. I think this is actually out of date. So like you actually really these days don't want to roll that much on 6 because the odds are so much higher on 7, 25 to 40%. So that's actually kind of a mistake on here, but whatever. Still, the point of these earlier ones stands. And then, obviously, 4-costs. It's like, a pretty low cost unit at 7 before committing to 8 is kind of interesting, though I don't know if I completely agree with this. Oftentimes you can just fast 8 these days, but okay. This is, pretty basic, pretty just like understanding of like, okay, this is how you play reroll. And I think a lot of people watching this video, I mean, for some people, I think this will be really helpful. And then other people, it will be, they'll be like, yeah, I know all this stuff. So let's go into some of more advanced stuff. This is really what it comes down to. Begin rolling with economy and pool awareness is where this starts to get pretty interesting. Roll aggressively when you are low health. You need these upgrades. You want to hit your units when you're contested. This is something that people don't do enough. Is I'm contested, I'm gonna just roll it down to 0 to try to hit as many units as possible, and then obviously close to 3 stars. When you don't hit, no key units after 3 to 5 rolls, which plays into this other idea of like lucky waves. If there's if you don't need to roll, and then also pull drain, check your opponent's boards / benches, which is a very interesting thing to say because you can't check your opponent's this is board / benches, but there's another piece of this which is their shops. You can't actually check what's in your opponent's slots, shop slots, but maybe you can, maybe you can't. Let's talk about it when we get into the lucky waves thing. And then, save greater than 10 gold so that you're not broke. Use lucky waves, rounds where key units appear frequently. Prioritize upgrades over hovering gold. So this lucky waves thing, I think a lot of people are talking about. And I think the rest of this is, use flexible carries. This is good stuff. Track Yes, this is where it gets weird. Track opponent board / shops to gauge unit availability. So what does this mean? How could you possibly track what units are in your opponent's shops? And so people ask as well about like what lucky waves is. And so Cardex explains pretty well. Basically, a lucky wave is when the probability of the unit you're particularly looking for aren't present in the 7 other players' shop is the highest. You're practically looking for these lucky waves to optimize your rolldowns. So the idea, and Cardex actually has another tweet to kind of like explain the idea, is, you know, say you're playing Kog'Maw reroll, and you have no Kog'Maws, no one else has any Kog'Maws. There's 334 Kog'Maws in the pool, there are 18 Kog'Maws in the pool, so your chance when you see a 3 cost. This isn't chance per shop slot, actually. I think this is chance when you see a 3 cost, because you'd have to multiply this by your odds of seeing a 3 cost. But this is every 3 cost you see is 5.4% to be a Kog'Maw, because there's 18 out of 334. So yeah, this is chance per 3 cost that you see. What's interesting though is, you know, if there are some taken out of the pool, obviously this changes things. So the idea is, you know, 5.5% likely to see like a Kog'Maw when you see any 3 cost, goes down to like 4% if there are 4 Kog'Maws in your opponent's shops. It's actually a really big difference just percentage wise, right? It's a 30% higher chance of you hitting every single 3 cost, that being a Kog'Maw, versus you know, the 4.32% chance if those units are out of the shop. So the idea is, you know, if there are a bunch in the shop, your odds drop a lot. So you want to get a sense for like how many are in your opponent's shops. Roll aggressively during waves when your target isn't contested, and then, you know, avoid when you are contested. So that is the basic idea behind lucky shops. Is that in an ideal world, you would always roll when there aren't Kog'Maws out of your opponent's shops, because when it's in your shop, it's basically out of the pool. It's the same as if they're just holding that unit on their bench. And so you really want to roll when that is not occurring. Now it gets a little difficult, and so here's where I kind of went down a rabbit hole. Shout out to Dorawaza. Shout out to Enzi, by the way. Dorawaza said that he was like talking to his friend Enzi, who apparently watches the channel. So what's up if you're watching the video right now, Enzi? But he said I ditched my friend to come talk to you about TFT math. So sorry, Enzi, that I made my good friend Dorawaza ditch you. But Dorawaza makes a lot of TFT meme videos. He was also doing a lot of the math on this, and so you can kind of see I have put a lot of weird stuff down here in the math. And the math is, I won't say that I've done the math perfectly. I don't remember that much of statistics class, but I think I did it correctly. And so like these are you know, number of, you know, chance per shop, chance per every shop slot, because you had to multiply it by the odds of you, or yeah, this is chance per like Kog'Maw, I think. Honestly, the 3 cost example isn't as interesting as the 4 cost example, because I think the 4 cost example, I thought for a second, it's like, okay, it seems really, really hard to differentiate these percentages, right? If you're rolling down and you have a 5.6% odds per 3 cost of seeing a Kog'Maw versus a 4.32% odds of seeing a Kog'Maw, it seems really, really hard to differentiate between those odds. You know, Cardex suggests rolling somewhere in here. He suggests rolling like 3 to 5 times to kind of like tell if you are in like a lucky wave. But 3 to 5 times is in no way enough to be able to differentiate between these 2 percentages. And so I thought, you know what, let's do a kind of an extreme example, because 4 costs, there's even less in the pool. So here's my example. Is, you know, there are 12 4 costs, there's 10 4 costs, there's 10 copies of each 4 cost, so there's 120 in the pool. So let's say we're playing Silco. And we're completely uncontested. No one is actively trying to buy these units. So there's 10 in the pool, and there are 120 of those 4 costs, you know, 4 costs overall in the pool. So I honestly think we should go down a bit, but let's talk about first one piece of this, which is, and this is using a freaking calculator on Wolfram Alpha, because I wanted to see, okay, like, what are even the odds that there are multiple out of the pool? So there are 35 shop slots in the 7 other players that exist in the lobby. The odds of one of those shops actually being a Silco is 1.8% basically, because do I have this number up here? Yeah. So, you know, there's 1 in 12 4 costs, and then you have a 22% chance to see a 4 cost. So 1.833%. So that's how likely it is for any single shop to be a Silco. So you say, what is the chance in the 7 other players that there is more than one? The answer is actually pretty decent, 13.4%. It's decently likely that there is actually a Silco in one of your opponent's shops. This is obviously assuming that nothing else is out of the pool. This is simplified for math reasons. Then we go to what's the chance that there's actually like greater than 2, which I thought was really interesting. The chance that there's greater than 2 is 2.6%. So about 2.5%, like not crazy, honestly. 2.5%, that'll happen a lot. You guys, when you play TFT and like you're level 8, and your odds of hitting a 5 cost are 3%. I mean, you guys have seen 5 costs on 8 many times. It's a little bit less frequent than that there would be actually greater than 2 out of the pool. This was greater than 1, so this is 2 or more. This is 3 or more out of the pool, which actually does impact things kind of greatly. And I think I have the math for that. Yes. Okay. And so I have the math for that. No. This is actually completely different math. I don't want to talk about this math yet. That's another entire thing entirely. But the idea is, So this is comparing these two things. So, for example, this is the Silco example. Like I said, a little scatterbrained because I've done all of this in the spreadsheet kind of in a bad way. But okay, this is the way to, so like this is the chance of that actually happening. And so I said, okay, 2.6% of the time, there will be 3 or more out of the pool. Let's say there's 3 out of the pool, which will happen sometimes. Is it reasonable for us to actually determine that with 4 costs because it's even, it's an even greater impact on the pool? So let's look at that. 120 4 costs in the pool in this example, and 10 Silco copies left. That means every slot you are likely, it's a 1.83% chance for you to see a Silco. Same numbers we have down here. Now, let's say our counterexample, 3 Silcos out. 117 in the pool, 7 Silcos left. Our chance per slot drops down to 1.32%. Pretty big drop in the probability. And look at this, by the way. If you roll 10 times, your average number of copies is 0.91, a little less than 1. But if there's actually 3 out, your average copies goes down to 0.65. A big difference, actually. A big difference in number that you would hit. And so this is the idea behind Lucky Shops, is that like there is actually a big difference. If there was a little indicator that said, hey, if you could like put some kind of selector on a unit and say, show me how many Silcos are in my opponent's shops right now. And if Riot Games said there's 3 out right now, you would never roll in that situation because your odds actually drop like a ton, 1.83% per slot to 1.32% per slot. If you multiply that over 50 slots because you roll 10 times, this is how many you're expected to hit. It's a big difference. So this is the idea behind Lucky Shops. But here's where we run into issues, where it becomes quite difficult, is how many times do you actually have to roll to know what the difference is? Because I don't know when I'm rolling if I'm getting this number or if I'm getting this number. If I roll 10 times and I see 0 Silcos, am I at this number and 3 are out of the pool? Or am I at this number and I just didn't hit? I mean, the odds of rolling 10 times, and on average, you're supposed to hit 0.91 Silcos. So if you roll 10 times and you don't hit a single Silco, well, I mean, that could very easily happen here. So how do you know? How do you know if you are in a lucky wave or unlucky wave, or if it's just bad variance? The answer, sadly, is you can't. It is completely unreasonable to know. So Dorowaza, I will stipulate that Dorowaza did use ChatGPT for some of these. These are all the real calculations, but these following calculations are from ChatGPT because Dorowaza said he didn't want to figure out what a Z-score was again from his statistics classes. I think the math is correct, but if someone actually wants to math this out, please let me know. But this down here is from ChatGPT. So we use marbles as the example to know at a 0.2% or at a 0.2 significance level, which is, I will go to it next, but the gold standard is the 0.05 significance level for like if you're actually like hypothesis testing in statistics, like that is like, oh, like that's actually like, we should take a look at that. And so this is 0.2. This is way easier to get there. You would need a sample size of 227 slots to say that to reject the hypothesis that we are in this number and say, okay, we're actually in this number. So 227 divided by 5, yeah, you need to, yes, 227 divided by 5 is the number. You need to see 45.4 shops to even have an idea that maybe you... that maybe this is not the case. That's really difficult. Obviously, we're not going to roll 45 times and then say, oh, okay, well, I've rolled 45 times. Now I actually know that I'm in the unlucky roll, so I'm not going to roll the 46th time, because once you've rolled 45 times, you are obviously, very, very low on gold. That's, 90 gold that you have rolled down without purchasing any units. So that seems really tough. And this is the best case at the 0.2 significance level. If you really want to be sure of it, you should go to the 0.05 significance level, which is 532 slots you need to see. So you would need to roll over 106 times to actually be certain. So that is the failing of Lucky Shops, is that, and this is with 4 costs. I asked Dorwaza to do the number for 3 costs to see if there were 3 out of the pool. And I'm about to scroll down to show you the number. If you want to be quite reasonably certain that you are in an unlucky shop, this is how many times you need to roll to know that you're in an unlucky shop, an unlucky wave. In the 3-cost scenario, to roll and know that you're in an unlucky wave, you need to see 1928 shop slots. You need to roll about 400, a little less than 400 times. So I think this kills the idea of lucky waves. There's no possible way of knowing, of being able to see this many samples to be reasonably likely that you are in an unlucky wave. Because it's very, very likely that you roll a few times and you say, I'm missing here, it's an unlucky wave, but it's actually just variance. TFT is a game of variance, and so it's very, very hard to be reasonably certain about something like that. So that's on unlucky waves, that you have to roll way too many times for it to actually be reasonably certain that you are in an unlucky wave. And once you've rolled that many times, you've obviously spent all of your gold. Even in this example, roll 90 gold. Do you really have that much gold left? I mean, and the other piece of it that Dorwaza kept telling me, which is true, is that if people are refreshing their shops, obviously that changes the calculation. So that's one piece of it. Now, there was actually one other calculation that I don't know why we even did, but Dorwaza started talking about it, and I thought it was really interesting. So here's the math. Because Dorwaza was talking about this idea that a lot of people, when they play TFT, they're like, I'm going to hold on to all these 4 costs or, whatever costs to improve my shop odds. Because, if I hold a Corki, that's 1 Corki out of the pool. It's one, slightly more likely for me to end up seeing a Silco. And so we wanted to do the math here. So these are just kind of numbers picked out of a hat. Say that there are, because there's 110 forecasts, say that there's 30 out of the pool. And none of them are Silco, so this is being really, really generous. So 10 of those are Silco. This is your odds of seeing a Silco when it's a 4-cost. Now, say that you're holding 7 4-costs on your bench, which is obviously an insane amount of gold to hold. This is now your new odds of seeing a Silco every time you see a 4-cost. It's a 9.59% increase in odds every single time you see a 4-cost. When you see a 4-cost, it's this much more likely to be a Silco, which actually sounds really, really, really good. If you told me I could increase my odds every 4-cost I see of being a Silco by almost 10%, I would say, wow, I'm going to start holding 7 4-costs on my bench. Where it starts to fall apart, though, is that you need to realize that, if you're on level 8, you're only 22% odds of seeing a 4-cost per shop slot. So if you roll 10 times, which is 50 shop slots seen, you are on average seeing about 11 4-costs. You're on average seeing 11 4-costs. On average, this means that you would see a 1.375 Silcos just with base odds. If you kind of improve your odds by holding 7 4-costs, you're seeing 1.5 Silcos. So this is the difference in the number of Silcos you would see over 10 slots, 0.1 difference. And so the idea is that if you roll 100 times while holding 7 4-costs, you will actually on average see 1 more Silco than normal. It's this number, times 10 again, 1.31 more Silcos, which I think also kind of kills this idea, which is actually, it's a very good thing to point out. is that, people try to hold on to these units to increase their odds. And obviously it's even worse with 3 costs, 2 costs, 1 costs, because there's more of them in the pool. And so, yeah, if you're trying to hold on to units to improve your odds, seems like it's certainly a futile, attempt to improve your luck. You have to roll 100 times to see one more, and so if you're rolling any less than that, it is a small increase in your odds, but I do think this is actually a really, really good way to quantify it with these numbers. Like, I like these numbers intuitively, saying holding 7 4-costs on your bench means you're going to see one more after 100 rolls, and no one is rolling 100 times. So that is the other statistical piece of this that I thought was fun to talk about as well. But yeah, that's what I got for the video. I don't know if this video is going to do well or terribly, probably terribly, honestly, because it's not a VOD review of a crazy comp, but I felt like I had to do this video just because it's been germinating in my brain. It's been going back and forth in my brain so much, and I was like, I have to talk about this because it's a funny topic. I feel like it is, after talking about the lucky waves thing, certainly seems like it's not really valuable. In the future, though, if there is some way to tell what units are in your opponent's slots, I mean, it's very straightforward, but don't roll when your units are in their slots. And maybe if there were some way of determining it outside of rolling, then we could, use this information better, because this is a big difference, right? The 1.3 time versus the 1.8, the Cardax example, 5.6 versus 4.3. It's a big difference. So if you can find that, it's huge. The problem is that it's so hard to find that. So I don't know. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you like weird kind of talky type videos like this, or if you don't like this video, then don't say anything at all. But yeah, thanks as always for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my Metafy, all my other links down below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.